and welcome to an episode of Faerie, Fable, Librarians. I'm Simona.
I'm Katie.
And today, Katie and I are going to be talking about the 2011 fantasy action-adventure film, The Sorcerer and the White Snake, which is directed by Tony Ching and stars Jet Li, Eva Wong, Raymond Lam, Charlene Choi, Wen Zhang, and Vivian Su. So, The Sorcerer and the White Snake is loosely based on a Chinese legend called The Legend of the White Snake, and it is counted as one of China's 4 greatest folk tales. So just a brief discussion on the legend, since that's what informs
Context.
Yeah,
It's context.
the story that we will be discussing. And as usual, I just want to give a spoiler warning. This film is several years old, but in case you haven't seen it and are interested, there will be spoilers in this discussion. So, The Legend of the White Snake has been adapted multiple times in multiple formats. There are operas, there are books. They did an animated 2019 film called The White Snake, and I know they had a sequel called Green Snake. And so The Legend of the White Snake, the central character, who is the serpent demon, in the legend, she's by Su Zhen, or Su Shen. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. And in the original version, she is a seductress and a temptress. But in later versions, she has a more favorable personality. And she's less of a temptress and more of someone who's very good-hearted and good-natured. And so this is the Ming and the Qing version, in which she's changed to someone who's good. And in the version, she either falls in love with a man named Su Shan, who's the same name in the film, or she feels indebted to this man because of a past life experience. The character of Fa Hai, Abbot Fa Hai in the film, in the tale, I don't know if he's an abbot, but he has the same name. Much like in the film, he once he discovers, so in the story, her name is Susu. So once Abbot Fa Hai discovers her true nature, he does try to separate her from Susan. In the legend, or at least one of the legends, he convinces Susan, or I'm just going to call her Susu, it's a little easier for me, convinces her husband to feed her or to give her this wine, which will reveal her true nature, because it is, I think, an antidote against snake bites. And once her true form is revealed, Sushan actually dies of pure fright once he sees her true form. And she's so devastated by this that she steals a heavenly herb to revive him. And much like in the film, Susan and her sister, Sha Qing, do fight Fa Hai, and they do flood his temple. So Susan and Susian escape, but Fa Hai tracks them down, and he imprisons Susan in a temple. Susan gives birth to their son, and the son, after he grows older, rescues his mother, and they both ascend into heaven. So that's the basic premise of the legend. And
so when you say very loosely based, the movie is very loosely based on that legend.
Yes. So I mean,
we didn't really get that.
No, there are common elements in that. So Susu and her sister, Ching, or I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, they do love observing mortals, so they dwell in the demon or spirit realm, and then there's the mortal realm. So there's the heavenly, mortal, and I think there's the demonic realm, or demon realm. And they enjoy looking at people. And one day they see these group of men gathering herbs. Ching, who is the more playful sister, spooks one of the men. He falls into the water. Susu rescues him. She sort of gives him some of her life essence. And that's essentially the moment where at least she falls in love with him. When he is brought to the shore, he sort of has a feeling that he was rescued by this beautiful woman, but he's not yet sure, and he doesn't really remember her. So Susu and her sister, being very curious about the mortal realm, decide to attend this festival, and Susu sort of enlists the help of Ching Ching to find the man whom she rescued and get them to sort of meet. While this is happening, there's Abbot Fahai, who, like in the tale, I don't know if in the tale he's a monk, but in the film he's a monk who has dedicated his life to sort of taking demons who have entered the human realm, demons who are causing problems, and basically sending them back to their plane. So he and one of his disciples are attending the festival because there's been an outbreak of plague and an outbreak of deaths due to demonic bat entities. They sort of bite people, and it causes you either die or you get some kind of plague-like symptom, is some kind of illness. So Abbot Fahai and his disciple are trying to track down these bat demons so they can get to the source of the plague and sort of help people out because there are a lot of people dying. So while they're doing that at the festival, Ching Ching is trying to find Sushan and basically get him to meet up with her sister. That does happen. He still doesn't recognize her, but she gives him a kiss. And when she kisses him, that's when he remembers who she is. And that's when he sort of becomes smitten with her, and that's when he falls in love with her. Abbot Fahai and his disciple track down the demon bat things because they're these huge, gigantic bats.
They're bat demons. Let's just call them that. They're bat demons.
At a certain point, his disciple gets attacked by I think he's like, I'm going to call him the daddy bat. He is the leader of the bat demons. So I'm just going to call him, or bat leader.
Bat chieftain?
Yeah, bat chieftain. So he attacks Fahai's disciple, bites him. Long story short, his disciple unfortunately succumbs to the bite, and not succumbs, that means he dies, but the bite starts to affect him where he is essentially also becoming a demon. That causes another kind of side conflict because much like Abbot Fahai, he has dedicated his life to being a disciple who tracks down demons. He has also in this film, there's a very black and white notion of demons. So there's no in between. They're just bad, and
there's definitely no gray.
Yeah, and they need to sort of be disposed of. And when you see Susu and her sister, yes, they are demons, but they're not harmful to people. In fact, that's stressed a few times because even when Ching Ching is talking to the disciple, and they kind of have a side love story or friendship, so to speak. I don't really know if they're both in love with each other. She says as much, because he says, I'm tracking down a demon and you need to be careful. And she says, well, not all demons are here to cause problems. Not all demons are evil. But it's like it really doesn't matter. They can't be in our realm no matter if you're good, no matter what your intentions are. So Sushen and Susu get married. They're living a really idyllic life, and Sushan has aspirations of becoming a doctor of sorts. So he knows his way around herbs, and he is concocting this, I was going to say solution, it's not a solution, this antidote to the illness that is plaguing the villages in the surrounding area. But he hasn't yet found that ingredient that will make it more potent, and Susu decides that she's going to give more of her essence, and it's in providing her essence that the medicine has great effect, and they start giving it to the people.
It's potency.
Yeah, and people start recovering. Abbot Fahai, because he notices everything, asks, thanks Susan for his hard work, for the fact that he is doing this, and states, oh, did someone help you make this? He goes, oh, my wife. And that's all he says, and I don't necessarily know why that's enough for him to become suspicious, unless he recognized that whatever Susu put in there was demonic. So he thanks him, he gives him this dagger, this really elaborate dagger, and he says, here, this is my thanks. And Suzanne takes it, goes, oh, thank you so much. So Abbot Fahai, sort of in a scene that's kind of scary because he's essentially stalking Susu, and eventually he confronts her. And he says, I know what you are. Does the man that you love know what you are? And she says, no, but it doesn't matter because I love him. I truly love him and he loves me. And Abifahe says, the very fact that you're here is already upsetting the balance. And even if your intentions are pure, you will end up hurting him or hurting others. It's only a matter of time. Of course, Susu says, no, you're wrong. That's not true. They have a fight. It's actually a pretty well choreographed fight scene.
Yes, but the effects left a lot to be desired.
It's 2011. But it's the effects are. I mean, they're hit or miss. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're not so good.
No.
And basically, Abifahe says, I'm not going to take you into the realm because I trust you're going to do it yourself. But if you do not leave within an allotted time, I will expose you and I will come to basically take you. Susu doesn't listen. She goes back home and, she's having dinner with her husband and he feeds her, like they have a celebratory drink. She drinks it and she immediately realizes something is wrong. So she says, oh, what did you give me? And he says, oh, it's such and such wine. I don't remember what it's called. And it's supposed to be good for snake bites. And because she is a snake, it's sort of causing her to revert back to her snake form. So much like the original legend, she is slowly turning. So she, tearfully locks herself in a room. He doesn't understand what's going on, but she says, I want you to tell me what you first told me when we met. And he says, oh, but you already know it. Just no, like I need to hear it again because it may be the last time that I hear it. And he thinks that she's just sort of being coy. And he basically tells her how much he loves her. He basically says what he said when they first met. Of course, Abbot Fahay and his disciples surround the home because she hasn't left like she promised. And Abbot Fahay says, I gave you a chance. No more chances. We're taking you now. She fully transforms into a snake and starts attacking Abbot Fahay. Her husband decides this is the perfect moment to go into the room. He sees this gigantic snake and he stabs her with that dagger that Abbot Fahay gave him. The snake turns, is about to attack, realizes who it is, and he sees a single tear coming down the face, and he pauses and she escapes. And he says to Abbot Fahay, oh, where's my wife? Did the snake eat my wife? And I love how Jet Li deadpans, the snake is your wife. And Abbot Fahay basically explains that he's married to a snake demon. And you would think, okay, that's going to be that's going to be the deal breaker. And at first, that's what you really think is going to happen because Shusen doesn't say anything. He's sitting there in stunned disbelief.
Well, I think it's a lot to process.
Yes. Meanwhile, Susu and Ching Ching are back in, I think, the demonic realm, and she's really injured because she was stabbed with that ceremonial dagger. There's something in the dagger, and she's not doing well. So one of her other demonic friends, who's a cute little mouse, goes to the husband and says, Susu isn't doing well. And he takes talking to a mouse like a champ. He doesn't think twice on this.
I mean, if there's demonic bats that people can see, I'm pretty sure that in this world, the
talking mouse doesn't really matter.
No, the suspension of belief is key.
So the mouse explains that she's sick, and Shusen, contrary to what you assume, says, I'm going to help her. And the mouse says that at the Lei Feng pagoda, there's this magical herb that if she is given it, it will heal her. But I, as a demon, cannot enter, but I'll, distract people, and you can enter, and you can get the herb. So Shusan does that. He takes the herb, not realizing that it's the actual herb that is preventing the demons that Abbot Fahay and his disciples have captured over the years from escaping. So it's that herb that acts as the lock to the door. Mm-hmm. As the demons start escaping, chaos ensues, and Shusen is actually, I think, possessed by some of these demons. The mouse brings the herb to Susu. She eats it. She recovers. And the mouse basically says that Abbot Fahay has taken Susien, and she doesn't realize that Abbot Fahay is trying to help him. She thinks that he's been taking hostage in a way as a way to get her there and as like a bartering tool. So she and her sister sort of basically storm the pagoda, and she demands that he be returned to her. Abbot Fahai says, "We're performing a ritual because he took the herb. He's unleashed chaos. We need to sort of bring things back in order. He's possessed. We need to get these demons out of him. And if you mess with this very delicate ceremony, you're gonna make things worse." Susu does not believe him.
Because why should she?
Exactly. And she says, if you don't give me, I will flood this valley. Abbot Fahai doesn't really take her seriously, and she and her sister flood the valley.
Yep.
And it's a very intense, very kind of frightening sequence because you see the waves just rising and rising and rising, and they flood the valley. The monks have to start fleeing. They're trying to save important documents. It was like very much like a librarian thing, right? We're about to be drowned, but we got to save these documents. And the monks that are performing the ritual for Shusian, it's also a very beautiful scene because they too get flooded, but they're so in the zone that they're not even registering there's water. And the demons are like, the ritual is still going on. Susu cannot enter because they've put these magical wards, but her mouse friend and his mice friends,
His minions.
enter the temple and go, "Start biting them!" And they start biting the monks, and that causes them to break their chain. The wards sort of come down, and Susu is able to storm the pagoda. She takes Susian and flees with him. And her sister is still sort of battling Fahai. Needless to say, the two of them cannot remain together. They, in spite of their great love, heaven has rules. Abbot Fahai, much like in the legend, captures Susu and he traps her in the pagoda. However, he looks up into the sky and he sees the heavens open, and he says basically that God is merciful, and he lifts up the pagoda, and Susu and Susian are able to reunite. At this point, he kind of has a mini amnesia. So she kisses him, and as she kisses him, it goes back to the very first moment that they met, and he says her name.
Yeah.
And she says how much she loves him. He confesses his love. And in one of the most tragic and saddest scenes in the film, Susu is dragged away from him and basically brought back into the pagoda, where we're safe to assume she's going to remain for however long she lives. She'll be in that pagoda, trapped in her serpent form. Her sister is rescued by Fahai's disciple, and she says, if this is what love is, I am never going to experience love because I don't want that heartbreak.
Yeah.
And she leaves.
Yeah.
The disciple, whose name, I'm sorry, I can't remember what his name is, he rescues the monks that are drowning. Mm-hmm. And it's basically, you see in the film that Susian is tending the grounds where the pagoda is, and like the seasons change. And essentially he's going to always remain with her.
Yeah.
Which is sweet, but at the same time, I don't know if they can really communicate because, there are the doors. But so essentially, he's not going to leave her side.
She's also underneath the pagoda.
Yeah.
So it's not like she's in the pagoda itself.
Mm-hmm. So the seasons pass, and the film ends with Fahai looking at his disciple, who's still in, I don't think he's ever going to turn back into a human. Mm-hmm. But he essentially says, I think this new form suits you.
Yeah.
And his disciple smiles and he flies away, which also I think one would assume that Abbot Fahai also seeing that his disciple is a demon, but his disciple is not doing bad things.
Yeah.
He helps his fellow monks. So I kind of liked it because I saw that as Fahai acknowledging the fact
absolutely.
that although he's a demon, he's not evil because he's a demon.
Yeah.
That he is capable of doing good things. And I mean, I don't know. Hopefully he gets turned back, but it ends where he's still essentially a back demon. Mm-hmm. So that is the film in a nutshell. This is the second time that I watched it. I don't remember when was the first, but there are a lot of beautiful moments. I like the fight scenes. Overall, the story is okay. Some things with the romance, I don't know whether because it felt a little too rushed. It's more like an insta love with me, which is fine. I don't necessarily mind that. But I kind of wish it could have developed a bit more, but the movie is only like an hour and something long, so they can't spend a whole lot of time. I know that this was also the story was adapted, I think, into a drama series. So it's been adapted several times.
Sounds like the movie A Star Is Born, which has been adapted and reworked a lot. There's a lot of different renditions of it.
Yeah, well, also, if this legend is as popular, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I was telling Katie before we recorded that there's actually a young adult book coming out, which is a gender bent version of this tale. So it'll be coming out in the fall. And I thought it was so interesting that we're discussing this and a new book is coming out.
It's serendipitous for sure.
Yeah, and the cover looks gorgeous. So, what did you think of the movie?
So, it's my first time watch, and it's probably I thought the story was beautiful. I thought Jet Li in whatever martial art movie he's part of is great. But I think because of the effects for certain things, and I think because I'm spoiled in that my real first introduction to foreign martial art movies was movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, The Forbidden Kingdom with Jet Li and Jackie Chan, and witnessing the ultimate question if Jet Li and Jackie Chan fought, who would win? Was a tie. But, seeing those like great, like it. So I think I've been spoiled in a lot of ways with it. Because I watched it. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I experienced it. But I don't have to watch it again because there's a plethora of. Sorry, I just hit the mic. There's a plethora of other movies with Jet Li in it that I enjoy a lot more. Like Fearless is one of them. That was really great. One, I think it was called One, with Jason Statham. Really great. Forbidden Kingdom. Really great. And then you have like things like the House of Daggers, which is a movie that's, I believe, is a Chinese-based movie that doesn't have Jet Li in it, but is also still a really great again, just really great choreographed, really great, like the colors, like it's so. Needless to say, I've been spoiled. I've been spoiled with the movies that I've watched when it comes to it. Hero. Hero's another great movie with Jet Li, and just everything from the effects to the storyline. So I've been spoiled when it comes to my foreign martial art movies, and seeing how like the special effects weren't so great, seeing how like the story, it's a beautiful story, it's a beautiful folktale, but I think if I was going to read it or watch it, or I would rather read the folktale than watch this rendition of it. I think I would rather see a different rendition of it. So all in all, like I said, it's a movie that I'm glad I watched, that I'm glad I experienced, but I don't think that I would watch it again.
Yeah, the very first time I watched it, I had the same thing. And watching it the second time hasn't really changed my opinion of the movie. There's just something missing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there was probably too much of an emphasis on the fight sequences, which I realized when you have Jet Li.
Yeah. You're going to utilize him
That's-
in the best possible way.
But I think if you're trying to tell a love story of two people who basically heaven has decreed should never be together because of the nature of her being a demon, you need to convince me more about their love story.
Yeah.
Another thing is, I think I wasn't terribly impressed with Eva Huang with her acting all that much. And yeah, that's, I think one of the reasons also the first time was that the love story felt too quick, where
it wasn't believable.
You're meant to be emotionally invested in this couple.
I was not.
And feel for their tragic separation, but I don't think you see that journey. It's, like I said, the ending is very tragic because they can never be together, which is really sad, and they love one another. But like I wanted to see that emotional journey with the two of them to sort of believe it more.
Yeah.
So this movie is available through Hoopla, which is one of our streaming services. So if you are interested, give it a watch. And let us know if this is a film that you are familiar with. Let us know what your thoughts are. Did you enjoy it? Is it something that you've rewatched? What other fantasy, martial arts, or wuxia films have you seen that you really enjoy and would like to recommend to us?
Also, if you have a favorite Jet Li movie, please put it in the comments because I am a Jackie Chan and Jet Li fan and I love watching their movies. And I would be greatly interested in seeing what your guys' favorite movies of them are.
Yeah. So we want to thank you so much for joining us for this discussion of The Sorcerer and the White Snake. As always, like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.